Welcome to another edition of Uncommon Entrepreneurs Lunch and Learns. Today we are with the Major Dream. How you doing today, Major?
Hey man, it's Gemini season. There's not a complaint in my life.
Love it. Love it. So we're going to get into the topic of the rise of the Agro-preneur today, and appreciate everybody who's streaming, who's signing in. Like, subscribe, share. We're going to be continuing coming out with these Lunch and Learn series on a weekly basis where we'll highlight prominent leaders in the Puerto Rican ecosystem and some that are off that have applicable messages for this time. I mean, the facts are that we're all at home. We're all needing to reinvent ourselves. We're all needing to pivot in some ways, looking for investment strategies, etc. So the idea behind this concept is to talk straightforward with people that have the information that we can use to have other creative ideas on how to make a pivot more successful and utilize the group consensus to go forward. So I'm definitely pumped to have Major on. If there was like 3 lines to signify what he is about, is plant-based living, decentralized agriculture, and bringing the culture to agriculture. So he fuses his Jamaican upbringing on the streets of the Bronx with a global perspective on spreading agripreneurship. Major aims to make farming sexy and healthy, again, by making every jungle edible and doing away with food deserts. Major has evolved into a leader in the plant-based and farm-to-table movement, a Jamaican member of the diaspora. He moved to Puerto Rico in solidarity and with the mindset that the Caribbean is a country of islands that are one nation. His personal plant-based journey began after he experienced health issues and depression, which led him to cultivating an organic and plant-based lifestyle. After transforming his body and mindset, he moved to South Beach, Florida, where he received his NASD certified personal trainer and nutrition coach, where he launched his fitness career, training celebrities and professional athletes around the world. Currently, Major's operating Metro Farms PR, a startup in Puerto Rico based on food resilience and promoting hyper-local, nutrient-dense food for the island and all the Caribbean, empowering the community by decentralizing the current Puerto Rican food system and creating a cyber marketplace for local at-risk community members to participate and create income. Welcome to the show, Major.
Hey man, thanks. It's great to be here, Drew. Appreciate it, man. I appreciate it a lot. And thank you for that. That intro. I mean, it definitely makes me feel like I got a lot to live up to. Yeah.
Hey guys, can you hear me?
There we go. Wait here.
Cool.
Yep.
So we're just getting in, technical glitch, no big deal. Major. So yeah, let's roll into this. Maybe let's give some additional background experience of like where you came from, what kind of led. You're in sunny Puerto Rico as of now. Tell us more.
All right. Well, first of all, I'm Jamaican. I'm Caribbean. So living here in Puerto Rico is really just kind of coming back home in a lot of senses. But I grew up in the Bronx, New York. One of the things that, funny, we were just kind of talking about just growing up in New York, when yesterday was Biggie's birthday, like that is how New York I am. Like we celebrate that like it's a holiday. So for sure, that growing up in a Caribbean background and always just been around food and an athlete. And then when I left New York playing basketball, I just went around the world and just ended up just picking up a lot of just knowledge on how to better feed myself because nobody likes really going to the doctor.
Yeah.
And my overall arching view really came where all of this kind of came together for me to even call myself an agropreneur or look into farming. I found myself in Bali, and I went there after living in Dubai, where I had started a vegan juice cafe, and it was doing well. We opened up 5 of them in 2 years, but I was in the desert for 2 years, so I needed to kind of get back to some kind of nature.
Sure.
So I took a trip to Bali, 3 weeks to Bali, only to go there, get some inspiration, and come back and be amazing. 3 weeks turned into 3 months, and
Wow.
got there and just had a whole total mindset that was different. And I went from calling myself vegan to calling myself more plant-based, because I realized that there's a whole ecosystem that goes into either, first of all, labels, screw all of it, right? But nonetheless, to be more of a plant-based person, you embrace balance. You
Yeah.
realize the world isn't really going for the plant-based. They're going against. So there's a lot of ways that you can't live. But that mentality of trying to come back and getting people more plant-based, putting things that were good, that were healthy, that can kind of give them a better sense of self. Started in Bali, and here it is, coming here to Puerto Rico, about 3 years later.
That's awesome. Yeah, and I know we go back a couple years. You've actually even personal trained me and given me some good health advice over the time for sure.
Yes,
So
man. You never had a better chest and butt in your life, buddy.
exactly. So yeah, so we're in Puerto Rico. I know you've got a mission for Puerto Rico. Maybe fill us in. Why Puerto Rico for you?
Well, so after Bali, I came back to New York. My mother was ill. She has since transitioned. She had cancer, since transitioned on, and boom, comes up on my radar, Puerto Rico. Now, I always wanted to move back to the Caribbean, because leaving Bali, my plan was to go back to Jamaica.
Got it.
But got sidetracked, and I saw that there was this big magnet that was just attracting people to Puerto Rico. And what it looked like me, a bunch of free thinkers, a bunch of new minds. They were talking cryptocurrency, they were talking sovereignty, they were talking decentralization, they were talking, let's do this first thing in the Caribbean. So now, as a kid growing up, loving the Caribbean myself and seeing prominent Jamaicans and Puerto Ricans in great positions, we always the Caribbean was always like an afterthought. So me kind of trying to find my story or my place on giving back, my goal is like, hey, the Caribbean is a microcosm of the globe. I've seen it, and it's here in our backyard. So let's put effort into it. There's a lot of black, brown people running around down there that need opportunity. Like, it's all about each one teach one. And if I could do something that it deals with, at least my cosmic karma, is give back to the Caribbean. And if Puerto Rico was going to be where the biggest thinkers were going to be, or the people that were willing to try something, or the billionaires that wanted to kind of push the needle on, I'm like, look, I may not have the money, but I got the energy, I got the bandwidth, and I'm a ride or die. BX all day, it's a real thing. So I know that New York hustle, that Jamaican work ethic, it's good somewhere. So I said, all right, cool. Let me just do my part in service, humbly.
That's great. And I see, and everybody does in this community. If you haven't met Major, he's definitely got to meet. So one of the areas that you, and I agree, see as an opportunity is there's a lot of like food that's imported, 80-90% of the food on the island.
Woo!
And with everything that's happening with, a worldwide, supply chain issue, growing your own food is a significant part, which, you've filled in as, and you're passionate. So it's a very timely subject for anybody watching to get, like what that means for them to be more sustainable. And a point you had made when we were talking yesterday that you can elaborate here on is the amount of jobs that can be created in entrepreneurial activities that aren't just in tilling soil and being a farmer. That kind of shifted my perspective, and it, could bring even jobs and businesses
100%.
to this area.
100%. Well, yeah, for sure. Because when you think about it, like I said, so we build farms, right? So building farms could mean a whole bunch of things. Now, here behind me, I have a farm, okay? A hydroponic farm here that we use, right? That's one version of it. Some people have a yard that they can use. Some people have, a bigger room that they can use. But the aspect of this subject is you can do it everywhere. You get to fix what your idea of any of this stuff is.
Sure.
You know, and I think all of this is really just challenging the norm. You know, the narrative is that the 80s was just terrible and wild and everybody was on drugs in New York. And I'm like, no, that wasn't the case. We had hip hop, we had consciousness, we had things that were in the community that kind of went away because of the commercialization of certain things. But these people are still here, you know, and today, right now, we have a whole bunch of people out of work. And I think, in my view, the agripreneur is really what it's about, because the supply chain is now real. You see how fragile the supply chain is.
Yeah.
They're killing chickens, throwing away milk, and which I'm kind of happy with that, just so that people aren't drinking more milk and eating chickens, but not that way. You know what I mean? It's more they're wasting stuff because they can't get it to people. And even worse, they can't put it in smaller packages.
Yeah.
Like, what? You're telling me that you got a 100-pound bag of chicken, and because you can't put it in 3-pound bags, you're throwing the whole thing away? Like, it doesn't make sense. So I'm like, look, rather than have the idiots make the decisions, let's bring things back to what our families can do. So you can build farms for yourself, for the next person. And it can go from just doing some microgreens in a small tray to, you know, getting some coco coir or soil and potting some plants and growing melons and pineapples and all that other kind of cool things. You can do that. To getting into industrial agriculture and building up a hemp farm. You know, there's so many levels, and it's all regenerative, and it all gives back, and it all saves water, and it does better for the world, and you can do it as big or as small as you want. When everybody went into cannabis and weed, they just ran for that. And I'm like, guys, you can't eat weed as much as you can eat kohlrabi. You know what I mean? Like, or kale, or callaloo. There's so many things that we, for a life force, we just overlook. But the life force that we're trying to continue starts with the food that we consume. So building farms are super important for that. And especially when food desert, right? So you're sitting around, no food to, you know, not to say necessarily no food to eat, but no sustained green type veggies are around. And you're just saying, okay, cool, let me just try to help the next man. You grow it simply there. One of the beauties about it, if you're growing something, and especially as a hustler, if you're growing something, you got to take it to where people are going to buy it. Right?
Yeah.
If I'm growing microgreens and mushrooms at home and people aren't buying it in the hood yet, I got to take it downtown to the city. I have to go meet chefs. I have to go now market myself. Now it takes you out of the hood. You're now seeing different things. As somebody who grew up in the Bronx, but the day I started going to Harlem, Manhattan by myself, the whole world started opening up to me. And that started pivoting my point of view and my perspective. Little by little, we don't know what the actual thing is that's going to make you do what you do. But if you keep getting exposed to it and you realize it's not much of a fantasy, a fiction, it's real, it's something that you can really tangibly, then you now can sell your microgreens that you did in your farm. You know, and you know, everybody wants to have a story about where their food comes from. You know, if you know chefs and they know like who, yo, let me tell you something. This girl Tanisha from the Bronx, just like she makes these amazing whatever. You know, like they love, everybody loves, you know, an underdog. So an agripreneur is a new way to kind of twist that underdog, because it's sometimes you can go from seed to sale. So we build farms, right? Now, we also grow food. This is where the educational factor comes in, okay? Because we have to teach people how to grow food.
Sure.
Everybody's home right now. So it offers us opportunities to teach people how to get a green thumb, or if they're better at one of the other four things. So the aspect of that, what is a seed? What is germination? I grow microgreens. I explain what microgreens are to people all the time.
Can you explain it? What are they?
What a microgreen is, essentially, it's the first 3 inches of a full-grown vegetable. So when the first 1 leaf, 2 leaves comes out, that starts microgreen stage. So you have a seed, which is dormant sometimes. So take a seed, it's dry, it's dormant, it looks like what you have. Then you can add water to it. Once you got the water, that's when the magic happens. So water is super important. But if you also hear what I just said, once you add the water, that's when the magic happens. So the magic is the seed, not necessarily what's inside the seed, but that shell. And when that starts to work together, the enzymes start going and the processes start happening. Then the babies start moving, energy start going. You give it love, play some music and intention around it. These bad boys start jumping up, getting colors, start looking at you. There's been nights I've sat here for hours just staring at them like, wow, like this is life actually happening.
Yeah.
And
it's real. It's real food.
And they grow, yeah. So they're now superfood. So they're the first 3 inches of a full vegetable. And
so is it healthier than eating the vegetable you'd find in a grocery store?
Okay, well, when you're talking about Puerto Rican grocery stores, let's say, and when the average is 3,000 miles away and 45 days, like that's what the food in a lot of these stores are, because they're put in hulls of ships and brought over. So, I feel confident saying that it's definitely healthier than some of the things you find in supermarkets here. However, in 2012, University of Maryland did a study that said microgreens are 4 times to 40 times more nutrient dense and bioavailable than regular vegetables, mainly because of the oxidation. Because you heard what I said initially, right? When you had the seed is where all the nutrients and the information is, right? I mean, everything starts from a cell. That nucleus, that's where the information is. It's not necessarily in the soil. The soil helps it, but everything is in that seed. So that's why it's super important you know where you get your seeds from.
Sure.
Okay, so yeah, people can grow stuff, but know where you get your seeds from, because that's where that DNA code is. That's what your body knows. That's what the electric current comes from. That seed. So once you have that popping, it starts to germinate and move on from there. Then you get sprouts. Then it gets to microgreen. Then it gets to shoots. Then it gets to mini vegetables. Then you get vegetable.
Got it. Okay. That all sounds good. So let's focus in on Metro Farms PR for a second. So like what do you're kind of alluding to it. You guys sell microgreens. I've personally bought some and they're delicious. Tell us more though about your services. You're just getting started.
A friendly neighborhood local farmer, and we're farming with microgreens currently and moving on to mushrooms in this next I think in the next like 3 to 4 weeks we should have some mushrooms going on. But I like microgreens because they're efficient. We're moving into a time of efficiency, and the goal of it is to show people how to create a not just supply chain, but revenue stream.
Sure.
Like, we are keeping that same spirit of the 80s. We're trying to flip. We're trying to bring it out. We're trying to get our product out there. If it takes me 30 days, 45 days to grow kale, but I can grow kale microgreens in 8 days, I got 3 crops versus your 1 crop. We're continuing to move because we're already behind the ball. So I don't need to take a month at a time to get me something that can give me the electricity and nutrients that I need. It's all about doing it quick. And This is why I call this one of the ultimate freedom strategies, because this is literally you going from seed to sale. You know, there's so much work, there's so many new jobs in this. You're teaching
Yeah.
people, you're building people's farms, you can create new food concepts. You know how many of these restaurants that aren't going to have people coming in because they're social distancing, they're going to have so much space. You call us, we'll come and build your farms in there for you. All right, so you know that right there can put people to work. It can give you your steady supply chain. You know exactly what you're growing, you know exactly what you're eating, and it keeps people off the road. It keeps carbon footprint down. You know, there's so many other things that growing food hyper locally can do. We don't have to be the one farm. You see, the thing is about metro farms is about doing things in metropolitan areas. I build
Sure.
farms in steel, glass, and brick places, and small enough so that you can add to it, but not big enough to take all the business from everybody else.
Sure.
You know, this is sort of like an ability and a chance to kind of create a big co-op even.
Yeah. Yeah, I can see that. I mean, you're creating, what I'm hearing you say is you're creating like a local ecosystem for farming so that you don't have to ship across the world, which brings jobs, brings business, and brings health, right?
100%. 100%. Yeah.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
pretty critical. You're starting to kind of get into it. So maybe to, as you mentioned, your freedom strategy, and that's a big part of who you are. Tell all the viewers feel free to
Okay.
like, comment, share, add comments. We'll interweave other questions. What is your freedom strategy, Major?
Well, definitely. I look for first thing. You know, for my first freedom strategy, at least when I figured that out, was really getting back my mindset.
Hmm.
Like that's the first thing. You know, if you don't have control of what information is going into this thing, or what's coming out of it, or what is at the base of it, once you realize that you are different from the information that you were given, and then you have to find who you are in between that. Once you do that, then you are on your path to your freedom strategy. It's sort of like Morpheus coming in and blue pill, red pill.
Yeah.
Once you pick one, you're going to your freedom strategy, you're about to do the Neo, or you're about to head back to the sheep. And I, for one, am a Rasta, so I'm never a sheep. So the aspect of freedom is just the ability to move when you want to move. And I look at farming, agriculture, as just that. You know, a strategy for you to get your freedom back so that way you are not having to make decisions based off of scarcity. We make decisions based off of the abundance that we live in. Once you're doing that, momentum starts and you end up getting out of the hood. You end up getting out of the small town, out of the Midwest. You end up being the hero of your own story.
Yes.
Yeah, so it's really about freedom, and you realize how easy we give it away. How easy people just ask for permission for things that they shouldn't ask for permission for. Like, we all stand on our 2 feet. We all have come into this world, and no person is better than the other. But yet we decided to believe some weird narrative, and now we have a world that they're scared to make their decisions, and now you're forced to make a decision. So I feel happy about, you know, more people want to farm. I'm hearing more people wanting to farm. I'm seeing the numbers on, the Amazon shop going up. Everybody's buying equipment and stuff. And, I'm getting more calls. Hey, Major, help me out, like, or teach my kid this. And that right there is just exciting. I'm excited about it because that's you taking your life back.
I
Yeah.
like that. Yeah, it's pretty important. I mean, giving yourself that freedom to be authentically you, and yeah, that's a very good way of looking at life with what you call your freedom strategy.
Man, growing up in the hood, you never think that you're gonna get out. You grow up and 7-year-old fell off the building. 14-year-old just got shot. 16-year-old is now about to do 23 years in prison. Like, these are the normal kind of conversations, and and you're like, am I that? Is that me? Am I doomed to do that? So you have to escape that before you even can think of yourself. And then you run into the regular world. And then, do I do the corporate thing? Do I, get married, my high school sweetheart, these type of things. And then it's like continuous hurdles that you think is your life that isn't.
Yes. Yeah, I like that. So maybe kind of like pivoting to a different topic, but about health. That's something you know well. One of the areas that I know you know a lot about and play an importance as you've educated me is microbes.
You say micros.
Yeah, tell the
Mic-
audience, what does that mean to me? What does it mean to you? Their importance.
Okay, so microbes. Those are the only things that matter in your life, all right? Those are the little things, the little microscopic beings that kind of play you like Geppetto. There are little microscopic organisms in your gut that actually have like, you have a gut brain that wants certain things that your other brain doesn't want. Right? When you eat something and you're like, man, I knew I shouldn't have ate that. Well, because you think different than what your gut wants. A lot of people's gut wants sugar. A lot of people's gut wants something salty. But microbes are one of the more things that they change your hormones. They change how you can see different colors and different shades. Your immunity. Right now, currently, the most important thing is your immunity. So your relationship with your microbes is something even more important. So that starts with alkalining your system. Like, just COVID or not, disease or illness does not live in an alkaline state. So eat the rainbow. The more alkaline food, the more things that can raise your alkalinity and keep it from an acid state, the better. So microgreens are a great way to do that. High in iron, high in potassium, high in vitamin D3, high in these things randomly I grow that everybody's saying that you need in your system. I say this past month, being here in COVID, being here in quarantine, I've had more time to focus on myself, my health, my well-being, my mindset than any. And I would hope most people are at home doing that as well. But there's one thing that I realize when you have something like this. People will have to make a decision at some point, because the body will reflect what's going on. But you will either fight, take flight, or freeze.
Freeze.
And all of those don't all mean the same thing for everyone. Some people need to freeze and take time to kind of think. I'm glad I froze. Remember,
Yeah.
Drew, I was leaving. Remember, I was leaving. I was going to the UAE. I was going to the UAE right in the beginning of all of
Yeah.
this, because I had gotten into an accelerator program and we were going to do metro farming bigger in Dubai. And I was like, okay, I'm leaving Puerto Rico. Let me get to the UAE before they shut everything down. And they stopped me in New York.
Mm.
So, and then turned me back. So I got back to Puerto Rico almost 2 months ago now and decided to build a farm. And I think that right there is really the essence, is what I'm talking about. It's like, look, your back is to the wall. You got to do stuff. You just make it happen. And that is what is the entrepreneur. Just make it happen. And
yeah.
if you can't make it happen for yourself, you're not going to make it happen for anybody else. And if you're growing food for yourself, at least you're doing something good for yourself. You see what I'm saying? So start with something small for yourself. Build up on that. You can't think yourself into entrepreneurship. You have to feel your way into it. You follow your passion. You live your heart. You live your truth. And sky's the limit.
That's good. Yeah, for sure. And exactly, for you to seize the opportunity and see how people are going to need this. That's huge. Talk about community farms. I know you've mentioned, you want to educate, children, and this is such an important subject that school systems don't typically talk about. And yeah, what do community farms, or just kind of that education path, mean to you?
Yeah, no doubt, no doubt. Well, check this. My homeboy Stephen Cutter, he's out there in Louisa. He just came up on a beautiful piece of acreage in Louisa on the water in Puerto Rico. He and I were talking the other day because I have a lot of clients who want me to take care of their kids, and I'm like, you really want me to take care of your kids? So I'm like, all right, Stephen, you got a big ass farm over there. Let's get some kids over there so we can do some agri-fitness. Like, the thing is this, once kids can kind of see where the food comes from and they're involved, then they can kind of see a little bit more of, wow, maybe we can do that. And that's why I tell you I want to kind of bring the culture to agriculture.
Sure.
Because it's the culture that, look, you and I both know hip hop is the beat. You know what I mean? Like, everyone is throwing anything that can be associated with black culture and hip hop is going to be monetized upon. So why don't we use the culture to guide us back into agriculture and do it differently? Do it differently. Like, I have a hydroponic farm. I have a clean place. There's no rodents in here. These things grow lovely and they're
Yeah.
clean. I just don't like to get dirty. And guess what? There's a lot of other people that don't. So that doesn't mean that they shouldn't have good food so they can grow it in the city. And that right there there's something for everyone, is what I'm trying to say.
Sure.
And I think even having Stephen and the farm, because even though it's not a metro farm per se, we still grow on farms because we do bring food. I have a farm in Microgreens, that a partnership that we're trying to finish with Microgreens, with Fusion Farms. Got Kendall out there; they're doing amazing things. And boy Stephen Cutter, he has so it can give us the whole gamut. There is no part of agriculture that cannot help your life. Whether it's fitness, whether it's looking at the actual ecosystem, whether it's logistics,
Yeah.
whether it's growing. The agriculture is really the tie-in. So yeah, so the goal is to create a platform and start bringing kids out to the farm once a week, and tire them out, give them a bit more ownership of what they're eating, and just a bit more knowledge, because there's no reason Puerto Rico should import 92% of its food.
Yeah.
That's just mind-boggling.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. That is pretty mind-boggling, and because it's such a fertile, island with a lot of land.
Man, you
And
throw a seed, it grow, man. You take a seed, you throw it, something grow it so tomorrow. That's how it is in the Caribbean, man. For real. So all of this, exactly. So you hear what we're talking about, right? Now this is why I say freedom. Because Puerto Ricans have been jerked around so much, they don't know what they're free to do or not free to do. Because
sure.
I'm hearing that the government won't let us. And I'm just like, does that mean like the government is standing outside like, no, you can't? Or does that mean that you just think like, okay, let me just avoid confrontation? I don't know. But I can tell you this much. When your back is really to the wall, you will do what you have to do. I bet you a lot of those same people that kept saying the government didn't let us, they're growing now, though. I bet you. Because realize that all you have really is you. You come in alone, you go out alone.
Sure.
All you really have is you in between that. What are you going to do between that whole thing? Here, are you going to fight, take flight, or freeze? What are you going to do? Here is where the rubber meets the road. Everybody's out of work. It's not just Puerto Rico. Everybody. Yeah, everything opened back up, but it's not the same like how it is. This was a test. This was a test. So count everybody lucky who stayed alive. And I'm sorry for the folks who lost loved ones. I lost 7 people during this time. So I get it. But that still doesn't mean that we have to stop. We still got to push.
You're right. Persistence and innovation and, you know, keeping your freedom strategies in mind. Exactly. And right now it's pretty critical.
Pretty critical, man. Pretty critical. You know, the food is it. Because if you're eating poison, what is it? What is the process like? If you've just eaten a corrupt file, isn't that corrupting you? You know what I'm saying? Like, it's so funny how fast somebody will fight you if you put bad gas in their car. But if you decide to give them some bread that's been on the shelves for a couple, you know what I mean? It's like, oh, thanks. And they'll, and eat it glad. And I'm like, wait, you take better care of your car and you take better care of your temple?
Your body, yeah.
Okay, cool.
Great point.
You know, and then now you're asking me why? Like, look, everything is connected. Everything is connected. It's all about momentum. Okay? So if a positive thing happens, another positive thing happens, another positive thing happens. But if you are actively putting things to stop your positivity in your way, at some point you're going to feel you're just not going to have your optimal life. Let's say that.
Yeah, I get it. And, you know, like you said, eating right, working out, taking care of your temple is everything. Definitely. So as we're kind of wrapping up, any big like takeaway you want people to kind of like leave with that they could, you know, leave with all this?
Well, look, one thing about Metro Farms is that we're a small business. We're a small farm. I'm just a guy with a big mouth. And the thing mostly is I'd like to sell. You know, my goal simply is to get good food to good people. I'm putting a public cry out there. I just need 100 of you dedicated microgreen eaters and shoot eaters, people who like wheatgrass, people who like sunflowers, people who like radish, people who like kohlrabi, people who love these things, to just be my first 100. Who's going to be my first 100? And we do monthly subscriptions. You know, you get a big tray of 5 different microgreens every week. We'll deliver that to you each month for $100. That right there will be the best thing that I could have happen, because you're supporting local business, you're getting things delivered directly to you, and you'll be able to be the first ones to also get mushrooms when we're on deck, because you guys are the first, adopters.
Sure.
And, you know, so really I'm just trying to do business.
That's great. And, you know, but I think, again,
that's the biggest takeaway. I'm a hustler.
Well, it's good. I mean, you're providing a good product. I mean, microgreens, as you said, have so much nutrients in it, and it's hard to come across quality food. You know, at times in Puerto Rico, you have to search it out, and you're innovating right now. So you're inspiring me and everybody else that's watching on, you know, what's possible and with the pivot when you take bold moves. And so for sure, I appreciate, you know, the time. I'm glad we had a chance to, you know, connect. And we'll put the links and details, how do people find you and follow you? And
Well, you can find us on Instagram, Metro Farms PR. You can we have a website, www.metrofarmspr.com. Instagram, my personal Instagram is plant-based man, so I run around out there. That's PLANTBASEDMAN. But Metro Farms PR. Just come my Instagram page or our Facebook page. It's the same, and just check in. But I would love for you guys to go to our website and just sign up and let's have a conversation, because I'll do this for you. This is my ability to serve. And you tell me you need something, it's what we make happen. I mean, the goal is just to make everybody healthier and happier.
exactly. I mean, that's needed more than ever right now. So so good. We'll be tuning in next week. We got more interviews to come. You're not going to want to miss them. Check out Major Dreams information. We'll put it on the link in details below. And again, appreciate you coming on. And we'll be talking soon.
Hey, Drew, thank you so much, man. You know, at the end of the day, this right here was great for me, and I'm glad I was able to be on your platform. And you know, we've been on this island for a bit together.
Yeah.
And we've seen a lot. And
Yeah.
you know, I'm glad that you're still here. I'm glad that I'm still here. And like I said, you know, I'm for the Caribbean. So Caribbean strong, man. Respect.
Yes. Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Love it. So good. Have a good afternoon. We'll talk everybody soon.
Bless.